Greetings, viewers and listeners. Welcome to the Airships Conquer the Skies development stream. My name is David Stark. I make a game called Airships Conquer the Skies. It's about constructing steampunk airships out of modules and then fighting with them against other people. As usual, I'll be basically just streaming some development on the game and talking a bit about the game. I've got a slightly more advanced setup now, so I can actually see the stream and the chat room and so on more easily. So if you have any comments or questions or whatever, do say, and I'll be very happy to answer them on stream. Or you can just drop in and say hi as well. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so what I'm doing at the moment is I'm basically turning all of the information in the game about things like module types, armor types, everything into a kind of data-driven format. So instead of it being hard-coded, it's all going to be in a lot of JSON files. And right now I'm actually working on the code for loading in the JSON information for the module type, which is kind of the big kind of complicated data type that the game has. Okay, so basically going through here, we've got the emitters, we've got the external appearances. Now we have the list of doors to the left or to the right or going upwards. Yeah. Okay. So if we have a list of left doors, so by default, just the bottommost, so at the bottommost tile of the module on the left, the door, there would be a door. But if we're overriding this information, we're going to set this back to false, and then let the this actual data tell us where there are doors. So okay, then we do exactly the same thing with the doors on the right. Then finally with the ones on the top, it's quite similar but not quite the same thing. Is it top doors? No. Up doors. There's no upwards doors by default. You don't need to reset anything. Okay, so there we go. Now the next thing is which bonus is required to actually activate this particular module. So that's easily enough. If that has required. Like the bonus, like basically everything in the game is kind of based on these enumerations initially, and I'm basically turning all of these enumerations into these loadables, as I call them, which are essentially enumerations that can be loaded and reloaded from JSON files. Now the one limitations these have, of course, is that because they're just based on data files, any enumeration actually needs different bits of code won't work. And so actually one of the things which isn't isn't being translated is the list of bonuses. Because the problem with bonuses is that like they just give arbitrary gameplay effects, right? There's custom code all over the game to actually enable the bonuses. To actually enable the bonuses. So I can't turn those into these kind of JSON-based things. I'd love to, and I mean, there would be ways of doing it, but it would involve a huge amount of re-engineering. It would basically involve sort of making the logic in the game custom programmable in a kind of data-driven way, at which point you're reaching that point where you're re-implementing a programming language inside your game. You get this inner platform effect and everything just gets horribly complicated. So yeah, bonuses, you're basically not going to be able to mod the game to have different bonuses. You can make it have new heraldic charges that use existing bonuses, for example. That's easy enough, but actual bonuses are probably going to stay hard-coded. Nims the brakes. Anyway. Okay. Jitter merge. Okay, now we're back to stuff that's weapon specific. So jitter merge is just how much subsequent shots sort of have the same offset. So like each shot gets a certain amount of jitter, a kind of an offset of the angle it would ideally shoot at. And for something big like a cannon, each time it gets a completely different offset. But for something that shoots continually like a flamethrower or a Gatling gun, the offset should kind of slowly wander around, so it's kind of going it's got kind of this pattern where the inaccuracy just kind of wanders around, whereas with the cannon it's like shoot here and shoot here and shoot here. So that's what that controls. Shot speed, of course, is another weapon specific one. I ignore this warning up here. Doesn't matter. Like these are literally the same files. I just need to be able to look at the top of the file and work somewhere further down. And so the easiest way of doing that happened to be opening the file again in the text editor. Okay, external. That's again. Okay, so we're nearly at the end. There's still springs, wheels, and legs, as well as lights. Now I have this distinct feeling that nothing actually uses springs as distinct from legs these days. Maybe they do, no wheels do. Okay, right. Okay, so we have to load in these three rather complicated data types as well. I'm just going to kind of start with having the framework. So if has springs, I'm vaguely keeping an eye on the cats. The test springs. So yeah, people seem to be fairly keen on having some kind of walkthrough for you wake up every morning and see the footsteps, my tiny little horror game. So I'm probably going to do that at some point. I actually didn't ask if they wanted this walkthrough as a stream or as a text. So I will pick one and kind of go with that. So walkthrough in the sense of kind of looking at all the details of the code and how it's implemented. Okay, springs are actually pretty easy, so let's just do that in here. K, of course, being the spring constant, if you remember your high school physics. Forgive the weird background noises, those are just cats. Current cat status is suddenly panic and run across the flat for no clear reason. Okay, Agent Demo says that there's a white text saying dev stream incoming that's still visible. Pretty sure I turned that off, but just let me check. Oh yeah, you're quite right. Sorry about that. Okay, that's fixed now. Okay, I really thought that wasn't there anymore. I'm like monitoring the stream on another computer, but it's quite a small window, so I just plain didn't see that. Thank you. Okay, so wheels, we're going through the wheels. Yeah, there's sure are a lot of things. Okay, do we have, including some imgs? Okay, I think we just need a little helper function here. About static img JSON object. Okay. So wheels is a bit of a misnomer, they're really tracks. So each track has like a graphic for the wheel, and then one for the lower bit of the kind of chain and one for the upper bit of the chain. And you need to define those things to get the actual wheel. Okay, that's wheels. The same thing with legs. Yeah, and the really fun thing that comes after this is going to be, so once I've written all this code to load in this JSON, I basically need to go over the old enumeration stuff, which I actually just dumped into this file temporarily, and turn all of this into JSON. And I'll probably do it by having one JSON file per module, just because, I mean, otherwise it's going to be slightly impossible to deal with. And once that's done, the code will compile again, and I can hit run, and I can get started on all the horrible runtime errors that I've introduced. And I still need to work also on what's called light map baking. So for kind of static displays of ships, and also if you have turned off lighting in the graphic settings, it needs to have the graphics of each module and so on with the lighting effects kind of pre-applied. And so if you create a mod which has a new module, then it needs to actually pre-apply those lighting effects to this module. And so that's something that still needs to be handled, because all of that, like right now, is just like static tools that have certain expectations of what's there, and they're going to have to be rewritten to deal with the idea that like modules can get reloaded, can come from all kinds of places and so on, and it needs to redo some of this baking in of light maps depending on what changes with the modules. It's all doable, it just needs reorganization essentially. A lot of this is just about basically breaking up hard-coded assumptions. Yeah, if you have any questions about the game or the development or whatever, do ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of keep on typing things. Okay. Ooh. So many parameters, but they're all fairly simple parameters at least. So no, I was wrong. There's a whole string in there. Okay, right. Let's get started. So what does it want? X and Y offset, sure. One slightly annoying limitation of the way that the leg stuff actually works is that it's all limited to legs where like the two parts of the leg, the kind of upper and the lower limb, are the same length. And the reason this limitation is there is that it makes a calculation of how to move the legs much easier. But sadly, this means that like if you have like for example spiders, like you want to put in really big spiders, but if you look at the spider's legs, the lower part of the limb is much longer. Because essentially the limb goes up first and then goes down again, but much further. That's just something the leg engine doesn't support right now. It's something might have to go back and like spend some quality time with mathematics and figure out how to make this more flexible. Okay, leg specs are complete. So these things, app fragments, app wreckage, and external fragments are going to be loaded in separately because they're actually derived from a similar process as the sprite sheet baking. So just going to ignore those for now. Okay, so there's still some stuff that needs doing, namely weapon appearance needs to have a JSON-based constructor, and this arc from descriptive JSON stuff also needs doing. Okay, so if we look at how we actually talk about arcs in module type X, we've got centered degrees, down centered degrees, and up centered degrees. Okay, so basically we need direction and degrees. Huh? Okay, that will roughly do. That just lets you say like the center of the hierarchy is pointing up or down or by default forwards, and the hierarchy is this many degrees wide. And that may be a little inflexible, but it's something can be revisited at some point if necessary. If you want some kind of weapon that can kind of shoot like in the top, like forward and upwards quarter or something like that, you can do that right now. But yeah, it will do for now. And then the other thing is weapon appearance needs a... Okay, that actually got hived up all the way into its own. Now, wait, wasn't there also lights? Yeah, I forgot about the lights. Okay, we're not done here yet. We also need the lights. If O.has lights. So that's the light sources for things like the glow of the end of engines and stuff like that. Did these light colors ever need... Okay, it doesn't look like they ever have an alpha, so we can leave that out. Okay, that's pretty civilized. Okay, weapon appearance. Shot exhaust emitters. Whee. Okay. So far, David, you can do this. Okay, so this particle type of name thing is basically the way that this loadable stuff now works. So when the game starts up, it goes into the data directories. For each of these types of data, it goes into the directory for them, and it loads in a list of entities of that type from the information that's there. And types which come later in this list can refer back to types earlier in the list. So that's why module type is actually here right at the end, because that basically refers to all the other stuff. For example, I'm just about to refer to particle type, which is here, which gets loaded in earlier because a variety of stuff, actually including crew type and a land block type and weather effect and so on, all refer to particle types. But all of this is it's just like a list that's in the it's in the game memory. So if you want to load in a mod, all the game has to do is just clear all of those lists and restart the process, taking into account the new data files that the mod has added. And so the cool thing about this is that the game can, in fact, load and unload mods without having to restart. Like the only thing it can't do is it can't load and unload mods while there are like game entities like in memory. So like if the if the game currently has an airship in memory and then it reloads all of the data types, then the data types this airship is composed of are now outdated and stale and won't work properly anymore. But that's fine. So basically, as long as you only change mods while you're not actively in a combat or in the editor or in like strategic mode, then it works just fine. It will save and load games and ships and so on just fine. And so one of the nice things that will hopefully come out of this is that you can activate some set of mods, start a single player campaign, do some campaigning, then like change your mind about what mods are actually active or whatever. But when you load the your saved game that you are using with a particular set of mods, it will go, oh, you're using these mods. ProWatcher 00 asks, hi, what are you coding? This game is called Airships Conquer the Skies. It's about building airships out of modules and using them to fight against each other. Can't currently show you what it looks like because it's not compiling right now because I'm reorganizing how everything works. Well, hi ProWatch01, hi Matt Sempe. Thank you for joining me, and do follow the stream if you like this. And I'm just gonna keep on coding. If you have particular questions, do let me know. So yeah, cool thing is basically you can just change your mind about what mods are actually loaded in, which also mostly allow for multiplayer with mods. So if you want to have a combat with some mods enabled, that's fine as long as both sides use the same mods, and everything will just work seamlessly. And the games can just chat to each other about which mods are enabled and which mods do you want to use. Okay, so going back here, the point is I'm not just going, okay, well, I need a new particle emitter with a particular particle type of this name, which is I guess just type. And the other thing that it wants two parameters. The other one is emit probability. Okay, so that's the shot emitter done. And then finally we have this shot exhaust emitters. Oops, that should be referring to M, not to O. So this exhaust value in particular, Horovaki asks, is it libgdx or purely LWJGL or what? It's actually Slick2D, which is another LWJGL based kind of sprite engine. Let's put it this way, as far as I know, it's no longer really being actively developed. It's like stable, but it's not really going anywhere. And it's based on LWJGL2 rather than 3, which is the new version, which is a bit annoying. I mean, in retrospect, you know, I should have chosen libgdx, just because, as it happens, libgdx is still being actively developed and updated and so on, whereas Slick2D is, well, it's there and it works, but the worry obviously is that long term, you know, it might stop being compatible with new random stuff in weird graphics card drivers or new versions of OpenGL or something. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but going back and actually changing everything to using libgdx would be a huge undertaking. I mean, I can do that, but that would add like a quarter year of development time. In practice, actually, parts of the game also just use pure libgdx and pure LWJGL. Those are mostly the parts that need to do things that Slick just doesn't support, or things where it's not fast enough. So for some cases where I really just need to blast lots of geometry, it pretty much descends into something like straight OpenGL. Oh yeah, so this feature is basically in there for rocket exhausts. Okay, I think that's everything. Yep. We've got the barrel offset, the shot, and okay. I think we're good. So here now in module type, we just need to pass in the width of the module because it needs that to calculate the barrel offset for flipped versions of the weapon. Okay, so we've actually reached the point where amazingly module types no longer has any errors. It just sort of you know, works. Well, it compiles. That's great. It compiles. So all of this information can now be loaded in. As you can see, there's so many different values in module type. It's huge. Can could probably unwrap all of those getters, but again, so much effort. Okay. Remove unnecessary imports. Okay, so now we pretty much have to go back over all of the code and see what we broke, well, we broke test. Because there's a whole bunch of things that, of course, reverse the module type in particular ways that now no longer work. So let's see. Airship. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. So this is the code that actually calculates how much, this is the code that actually calculates how much the it will cost to refit one ship design into another, and that means you just have to go over all of the modules and so on to figure out how much scrap value you get from the things you don't need anymore and how much it costs to add the new stuff. Horvaku says they're convinced Java developers are masochists. Well, it's probably somewhat true. The thing about Java is that, well, basically has really nice IDE support. So that makes it bearable in terms of, like, you know, as you can see me typing here, like most of the type, I'm just constantly hitting autocomplete. I'm not actually typing out anything here, which kind of makes up for the fact that the code's verbose some of the time. Okay. Okay. Oh, look, hard coding. So here I'm just explicitly checking against two module types, which is naughty. Because really, there should just be an isRam flag. Well, we can add that easily enough. Oh, has anyone tried to pair Scala and LWJGL? It's actually a good question. I don't know if there's any major game development's been done in Scala. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't. It's pretty much, if not, you can use Scala as a functional language, or you can kind of use it as Java, but slightly nicer syntax, slightly nicer, more confusing syntax. So yeah, I mean, you could definitely do that. I'm probably going to switch away from Java in practice for my next project. Not because of anything to do with the language as such, but just because it's been a real pain just trying to get the game to work on everyone's machine. And there's just very little Java game development being done, which means that if I get stuck somewhere, I'm a little bit doomed. There's no one, it's not like I can ask anyone, how do you fix this weird problem with LWJGL? Because usually the answer is, well, no one's actually run into this problem because most people use LWJGL to make little toy games. There's except for Minecraft, which is the weird outlier. So I just worry that and then there's the issue of you have to have a Java virtual machine installed on your computer, which comes with hideous bloatware these days, or you need to bundle one, which has its own weird problems. And so all of that kind of makes me think, well, actually it would be less painful to just use Unity. I actually kind of dislike Unity for philosophical reasons. I mean, not personally, I think they're really nice people, but I kind of disagree with the way that they've set up their engine. But on the plus side, if you actually, use Unity, there's God knows, there's 10,000 people, 100,000 people, 1 million people, I don't know. Everyone basically knows how to Unity these days. So it'd be very easy to get help, to get support. If the game crashes out hideously on someone's machine, I can at least go and poke Unity, the company, and complain and say, hey, your engine crashes on this person's machine. Fix it, please. So that kind of makes me want to switch. And the other reason is that the next game I'm doing is likely going to be actually 3D rather than 2D, which is another kind of thing that points towards using a thing that actually is a 3D engine. But we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind radically and go no, Java forever. I will keep Java alive as a programming language platform by sheer strength of will. We'll see. Okay, anyway, so we wanted to have a isRam flag here. That then lets us go in here and say, well, actually just okay, sure. So this in practice now means that if you want to add new types of naval RAM, you can do that. If you want to have the humongous RAM or the medium-sized RAM, or I don't know, the floating squirrel RAM or whatever, you can do that. Okay, let's carry on. I'm basically just going through the entire code now and just looking at all the bits where it has a little warning icon, and oh wow. Oh dear, that's so on fire now. So on fire. Okay, that's the help tutorial stuff has just stopped working because it needs to refer to module types. Now all of a sudden all of these module types are no longer enums, and so okay, that's not so useful. Okay, so we essentially have to like just store the names of these types now rather than the actual yeah, okay, great stuff. Okay, so we have okay. Oh, lots of people on watching this. This is nice. Hi, all like viewers and new people.